Welcome to the show where I'm a total shill for the Democrats. They give me money, I say what they want. It's pathetic, really. Look at me, squirming like a baby. That's how low I've sunk. Thanks for watching.
What's on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and Stephen Colbert had another live on-air meltdown last night. There are mere days left before his final show in May. This time he had a meltdown because he had to live by the rules that everyone else lives by on the taxpayer-subsidized public airwaves. But for whatever reason, Stephen Colbert thought that late-night television shouldn't have to live by those rules. That the American people, the American taxpayers, of which 50% of us don't agree with what he puts on the air, we should have to pay for him to pump out nonstop propaganda. Don't forget how he shilled for Pfizer and all these other companies unrelentingly during the lockdowns and told you that you were the human garbage if you didn't support his sponsor. And last night, he had an epic meltdown as he knows his time is up, and I'm absolutely here for it. After a super quick word from this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Shout out to this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Look, if you aren't using a VPN yet, you're completely missing out, and Private Internet Access is the one I use on all of my devices. If you've been following the news, you see that censorship, websites, apps are getting shut down in certain countries, all sorts of craziness. Well, a VPN helps you never have to worry about that. Private Internet Access also protects you from the prying eyes of hackers, internet service providers, and others that can view your personal data. Perhaps also just as importantly, Private Internet Access allows you to access region-restricted content from all over the world. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more have different library options based on where you're located, and some shows simply cannot be accessed if you're not in the target location. Happens to me all the time. Many sports events also have regional blackouts. Well, VPNs can be a convenient way to make sure you're getting the content that you're paying for. Private Internet Access also allows you to protect an unlimited amount of devices all at the same time, so your entire household with a single subscription. And I've been working with Private Internet Access so long that I have an absolutely massive discount available to my viewers. Link in the description below. Get Private Internet Access today using my link. Save huge, protect your computers, access all the content that you've been paying for. Stephen Colbert hurls his toys out of the stroller as CBS banned him from having Democrat lawmaker guest on show because of the equal time rule. Now, let's first of all address this headline. No, he was not banned from having a Democrat lawmaker guest on because he was a Democrat. He was banned because he wanted to openly shill for a Democrat using taxpayer dollars and ignore the guy's opponent. He could have had his Democrat lawmaker buddy on if he wanted. All he had to do was give equal time to the Republican that is running against him. You don't get free political promotion on the taxpayer dollar. But listen to how this moron actually frames this.
So you might have heard of this thing called the equal time rule, okay?
Now, first of all, notice that he puts it in air quotes. No, it is a long-standing rule. It is one of the rules that why CBS lost that lawsuit when they shilled for Kamala Harris on the 60 Minutes show. They were forced to give Donald Trump equal time. This is not an equal time rule. It's the equal time rule, and it's been around a very long time.
Okay, it's an old FCC rule that applies only to radio and broadcast television.
That's federally funded.
Not cable or streaming.
Because they're not federally funded.
That says if a show has a candidate on during an election, they have to have all that candidate's opponents on as well.
Okay, that's fine. Nobody in America has a problem with that. If the late night show hosts were only hosting Republicans, don't you think Democrats would be like, how come they're shilling for all these Republicans? It's not fair. And it isn't fair. I shouldn't have to pay for that. If Stephen Colbert wants to make a campaign donation to James Tallarico, he's allowed to do so. But he is not allowed to use federally funded airwaves to shill for one side over the other. This is why the rule exists.
It's the FCC's most time-honored rule right after no nipples at the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, because it's the same thing.
There's long been an exception for this rule, an exception for news interviews and talk show interviews with politicians. Now, that's crucial. How else were voters supposed to know back in '92 that Bill Clinton sucked at saxophone? But On January 21st of this year, a letter was released by FCC chairman and smug bowling pin Brendan Carr.
Again, they're all big mad about Brendan Carr. Remember, they're still pushing that fake narrative that Jimmy Kimmel was pulled off the air by the FCC when he wasn't. He was pulled off the air because Sinclair and I forget the other one, whoever carries his show, didn't like what he had to say about Charlie Kirk.
In this letter, Carr said he was thinking about dropping the exception for talk shows because he said some of them were motivated by partisan purposes.
Hello, McFly. Name a late night talk show on terrestrial TV that is not liberal leaning. And by the way, again, if they were all right leaning, that would make this rule just as important. All this guy does is lie, and we're paying for it, just so you guys know that.
Well, sir, you're chairman of the FCC, so FCCU. Because I think...
Wow, great joke. Who could possibly crack why you've been kicked off the air?
Simple. Because I think you are motivated by partisan purposes yourself. Sir.
You mean enforcing a law that has long been ignored when... See, the thing is, when the Democrats are in charge of the FCC, for example, and the late night talk show hosts shill for Democrats exclusively, you're right. They didn't enforce it. In fact, Donald Trump had to sue to get them to enforce the actual laws that are on the books. Okay. This is how the left acts when they are forced to live by the rules that the rest of us have to live by. They have long enjoyed the double standard, the crazy, obscene biases that is paid for by the American people. Again, if you want to just, only have Democrats on, then get a show on Comedy Central like The Daily Show, or get a show on CNN and have your show there. They don't want that, though, because they want the reach of the terrestrial TV and they want the subsidies of the federal government to help them push their agenda. That's really what they're mad about here.
You smelt it because you dealt it. You are Dutch ovening America's airwaves.
Like you have been for the past 8 years. But thankfully, again, there are now mere days until you are off the air.
Let's just call this what it is. Donald Trump's administration wants to silence anyone who says anything bad about Trump on TV because all Trump does is...
You're joking, right? Now, I agree. Trump does watch too much TV, and Trump does care way too much about what people say about him on TV. But the idea that he wants to silence anybody that speaks out against him, you're joking, right? CNN for the past 11 or 12 years have said nothing bad about him. They're still on the air. MSNBC is still on the air. Now, both of them have seen viewership collapse because the people themselves are tuning out because they're just getting immune to the TDS. Look, either you like Trump or you don't like Trump, but you don't need to hear about him every single day. Even I'm like, I just want to watch. You know what I watch in it? I watch reruns of King of Queens, Seinfeld, or movies. I don't really want to tune back in for more people raging about Trump or, quite frankly, supporting him. That's what I do for my day job. I deal with all that. Americans are tired of being bombarded nonstop by just politics in general. Just look at the whole space I'm in. Now, I know I'll get in trouble when I point out the space is down. Some people get their feelings hurt. But the entire space of, politics and, the culture war and stuff like that, it's all down because people have fatigue. That's why the F around and find out videos that I do so well. It's because they just want some entertainment.
Watch TV. Okay? He's like a toddler with too much screen time. He gets cranky and then drops a load in his diapers. So it's no...
Wait, I thought you were getting silenced, Stephen Colbert. That's strange that you got to say that on TV. That's strange.
It's no surprise that two of the people most affected by this threat are me and my friend Jimmy Kimmel. When this letter dropped,
By the way, neither of them have been affected at all by this.
Both talked about the letter on air, and then later, Carr defended it like this.
If Kimmel or Colbert want to continue to do their programming and they don't want to have to comply with this requirement, then they can go to a cable channel or a podcast or a streaming service, and that's fine.
Okay. That's literally what I said. Look at that. A normal country bumpkin Midwestern guy understands the law. But for some reason, Stephen Colbert, I know he understands it, and I know he's just lying and being dishonest here. But give me a break, dude.
Great idea, man whose job is to regulate broadcast TV. Suggest everyone just leave broadcast TV.
Or follow the rule. Again, this is a simple rule that everyone else has to follow. Now, Tellerico, a 36-year-old Democrat currently running to try and flip a Republican seat in the Senate, Colbert explained that he was supposed to be on the show, but they were told no because they don't have the equal. They weren't told no. Again, another lie. They were just told they have to give equal time. He proceeded to lay out the drama, explaining that, it's just not fair. And anyway, he welcomed the 36-year-old Texas Democrat anyway after his rant. So wait a minute. So he did it anyway. So nobody stopped him. Now, obviously, CBS is going to get fined. So he had a titty baby meltdown, loaded his own diaper, and then did whatever the hell he wanted to do anyway. So could you tell me how exactly the FCC is controlling you, Stephen Colbert? Could you tell me how you're not a partisan hack? Could you explain literally any of it? Of course, we now know, remember, Colbert's show was canceled for financial reasons, saying the show is losing $40 million a year. Colbert was named as Letterman's replacement in 2015 and did nothing but tank the show into oblivion. The show never saw any kind of ratings. I'm tired of hearing these late night show hosts complain, whining to his 3 viewers that are still watching the show. The man is a crybaby. No one agrees with you. You're a dork, a loser, and good riddance to you in May. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.